Hi, my name is Todd Janes, and I'm a resident of McCauley, and I think access to safe, secure housing for people is really important.
How long have you lived in McCauley?
I've had the pleasure of living in McCauley for almost 7 years.
And why did you move there?
It was interesting. A group of friends and I were all renters, and we were talking about affordable housing, and that was when condos were expensive. Well,
Right.
they're still expensive, but and we had a number of conversations about the idea of our hope was to buy a 3-story walk-up apartment building and slowly live as a co-op in that building. So every person would have their individual suites, and we would share laundry and other stuff and communal gardening and things like that. So we looked at a lot of different neighborhoods throughout the city. Most of them were kind of in the core: Queen Mary Park, Central McDougal, Ritchie, because there was this nice set of row houses in Ritchie that I think we all wanted. But the guy was... the price kept changing. So it was interesting because I think at one point there was probably a collective of about 10 of us looking to see what we could do. And then we found this fourplex in McCauley that was like, oh, well, how does that work? And then we looked inside, and it was owned by a family, the Loves. They were both now retired and had owned the property for quite a few years, and they were renting it out, and we were like, this is almost perfect. And McCauley was a neighborhood I thought of for a number of years because I would go to the Chinese supermarket or Lucky 97 and the Italian Center and a number of restaurants around there. I like to eat. It's good if you live in McCauley and you like to eat. And it was close to work, it was close to downtown, and it kind of ticked off everything I wanted. I wanted a place that was close to work, that was accessible, that was walkable, that I could bike or ride the bus. It had places to go out and hang out. It had grocery stores. It had doctor's offices and things close by. And it had a vet that I had started using in the Blue Cross Animal Hospital. And I realized, hey, it's only a few blocks away. So to me, it was a no-brainer. I think as the city kind of spreads out, it's really important that the core expands too. And McCauley is definitely part of the core.
Have you, as a resident and a homeowner, been impacted personally by any of the social issues in the area that come about as a result of housing and homelessness?
I think everyone in the city of Edmonton that actually stops and thinks or cares or realizes that issues around housing are important for all of us. McCauley is interesting, right? Because it's that part of the city where immigrants have come forever, ever since there were immigrants. Probably even indigenous people thousands of years ago were like, hey, this is a place, it's fairly far away from the water and it's not going to flood, hopefully. So you can see generations of migration to Edmonton, and a lot of people come to McCauley. I think it's because it's close to everything. It's centrally located, and I feel it's a rather welcoming community. I think people are very curious, nosy, in a good way, and I think people care. Like, it's been nice to get to know the neighbors on my street a bit more. Some of them I don't always remember their names, but in my head I have a story of who they are. So I think that's important, that we in McCauley, like any big city community, have a mixture of housing, that There are single-family dwellings, there are apartment buildings, there could be condos, there could be affordable and accessible housing for everyone. I feel that McCauley should be a community that you can, like, I don't know, maybe it's hokey, but it would be good to like grow up in McCauley. And I've met lots of people who are like, oh, I grew up there, but I live like somewhere else now. But then you could return there, and we've started to see a number of empty nesters. Is that what they call when their children finally move out for the very last time? And they're like, I don't want to clean a 4-bedroom house in somewhere south, and I want to be able to walk to the Citadel or to the library and shop and do things. So it's nice to see people come full circle.
What's your opinion on the concentration of social housing that's in McCauley?
What's my opinion on the concentration of social housing? I think it's difficult to really truly ascertain it. We have a lot of agencies in the area. So, affordable housing or whatever also includes a shelter, and it also includes every mat that gets laid on the floor at night. So, I think a neighborhood is richer if you have a great diversity of people, ethnoculturally, social economics as well. And I think I would feel bad as a progressive citizen in the city if there were people that didn't have access to housing, whatever that is. And I remember first when I moved to the city, it was in the early 90s. And I read about a man who froze to death. And I was really affected by that because I don't think I grew up in a small town, so I don't think I really understood homelessness completely, and I couldn't understand how someone could just freeze to death. And then I realized, like we all do, life is tough. And I really feel that individuals and groups and organizations really are measured by how do you perform when you're at your worst, or how do you ensure that our most vulnerable are taken care of or looking after. I bet you if it was a child that froze to death, people would be angry. But a life is a life is a life for me. So I think regardless of the person, they're all still people.
How would you respond to someone in another neighborhood who might be, might have some fears about social housing coming into their neighborhood?
I live really close to one of the Operation Friendship housing projects, I guess that's what they're called. And they're a great neighbor. Their sidewalks are always shoveled. They take care of their lawn. We could talk to them about maybe not having a lawn or something, maybe having something more eco-friendly. I'm guilty of that too. But they're a really great neighbor. My feeling is that I choose to live in the city. I choose to live pretty close to downtown, so there are certain things that come with that. There's noise, there's more unique and marvelous people. I think a lot of the times people probably don't even know some of the issues. E4C as an agency has projects throughout the city. YESS or YEES, the former Youth Emergency Shelter, Youth Empowerment Society or something now. They have projects throughout the city, and Catholic Social Services, a lot of them have them, and they're integrated into neighborhoods. And I think and those are mainly like group home type situations. And I don't think most people probably even know that they're there. I think it's important for every community in the city to look at how we can make the city better. And I think if part of it means looking at having affordable housing in your neighborhood, that's kind of a weird nomenclature. I mean, affordable to some people is $5,000 a month, and affordable to some other people is like 500 or less. But I think we should be open to that. I think we should not let fear be the thing that freaks us out.
What do you think other neighborhoods can learn from McCauley's example?
What not to do? What to do? McCauley is amazing. It has a really strong history of social justice and citizen action. I think of people like Kate Quinn. Oh my God, she's awesome. And she did a lot of work around where prostitution was really rampant in our community. That was before I moved there. But I feel that she did a lot of work around care and ethics and looking at vulnerable people who are exploited. And I think if we look at incidences where people read about it or they don't feel safe, often those are because there are vulnerable people that have been exploited in one way or another. And I really feel that it's important for a community to have those difficult discussions. And, I don't think any one community has a solution. I think solutions need to be made within the communities, and they need to be created after people have arguments or disagreements or have their fears evaporate when they actually get to meet different people. Because I haven't really read a lot of studies that said if you have market housing in your neighborhood or if you have projects that address homelessness, it will depreciate your property value. Like what I don't think people understand is development begets development. And as a city, we probably should have more discussions around density and usage than we have around zoning. Because our city is growing out and it's an incredible strain on our infrastructure to maintain that, to plow those roads, to pave those roads, to fill all of those potholes, to offer garbage service. Like, we are blessed in the Edmonton region because we don't really have boundaries or physical boundaries. There are no mountains. There are no real waterways. We've conquered the North Saskatchewan. So we have that ability to grow as big as we want, but is that really good for the environment? Is that really good for people? Do people really want to drive that far every day to commute? Because they have this image that it's going to be a safer neighborhood if they live in a MIC house where all of the houses look the same with the same type of stucco and they all have like this much of a lawn for their kids to not play. Safety is important for everyone, and like, oh my gosh, maybe it would be great to have children growing up in older, mature neighborhoods because they have sturdy trees that have been there for like hundreds of years and they're still alive. So those are pretty solid trees to climb in.
What is a caring community to you?
I think it's a community that is aware. I think it's a community that has healthy conversations that are open to everyone and they're willing to listen. And I think it's a community that is courageous. I think really caring sometimes isn't about like, oh, I care for you. It's about having meaningful discussions where you hash things out. You talk about like what that's going to mean, and sometimes it's what it means for the next 5 years, and can we live with those choices, or sometimes it's like longer term. But like a caring community is, I think, care, or that ethics around it, is about to look after. And if it's a caring community, then you look after your community. You don't just look after your property or your family.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Come meet me in McCauley. I'll take you for coffee, and we'll talk about social housing.
Great. Thank you very much.